Hi, it's someone from BK Nutrition, and today I'm joined by Dan Osman, who's a very, I suppose, long-standing friend of mine, and we've both been in the industry for a long time. We're both coaches. Both Dan and I have competed in the past, done extreme diets and all the other stuff. And today we're going to talk about a variety of things. And it's just a little bit of a chat. It's no sort of set topic, but some stuff that we thought should be discussed. So welcome, Dan. And
thank you for having me. I just want to interject from the very start and just say you use competitor quite flippantly. I think I was more of a participant. You was a genuine competitor. I kind of dabbled and had a bit of fun. But yeah, I've done the extreme dieting thing, definitely. I definitely would never refer to myself as a competitive bodybuilder at all.
You did get in pants and you did get tanned and you did get oiled up.
Yeah, that's true.
So you're more than qualified to coach other people to do bodybuilding shows?
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Overqualified.
You just photocopy what you were given and just give it to other people, right?
Yeah. And sometimes you change the name at the top.
But sometimes you forget. Yeah. And you send it anyway.
And you send it anyway. Don't matter. They understand you've got 50, 60 clients to deal with, and you can't get them all right, can you?
That was my first experience with a coach, actually.
Really?
Is that, yeah. And I'm going back to 2012 now. And it was, and to be honest, a lot of the principles I think this might be relevant for our discussion as well. A lot of the principles I kind of base my coaching ethos now is negative experiences others have told me about, and also my own negative experiences, because that was a world I'd never entered before. Like I got into the industry from a fitness-based, aesthetics-based, performance-based thing, but never to those extremes. And I came to find out, it was show day, that not only were there other guys in my category that had the same coach, but we all had exactly the same training plan. At one point, he forgot to chop and change mine around. So I think I had the same training plan for the best part of 20 weeks. But at the time, I didn't know any different. And the exact same nutrition plan, which was a word for word rip off of his coaches, which is another person that we both know in the industry's plan that had taken him through competition. Yeah. And it was just a rinse and repeat, except for at the time feeling like death. I was a good 20 kilos over a couple of the guys.
Oh.
So turns out when you're in your 90 kilos ish, 1,500 calories a day, sometimes training twice a day isn't a lot of food, and probably a good reason why you feel like utter shit.
Yes. Yeah. So a whole pleasant experience for you then.
Absolutely. And I still didn't look any good.
I remember my first show, and I cheated all the time. It was not great. I was like death half the time, cheating half the time, was late getting on stage, all sorts of stuff. And I think I only won because I was the biggest guy on stage, and none of the others were sort of in condition. So it was a lucky win for me, but I definitely, that time.
I think you probably do yourself a disservice. You actually competed at a high level. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, the first time I did the show though, that was actually the Mr. Tenby. It was Neil Hill's show and it was the furthest away from Bristol I could possibly get, I think, for my first bodybuilding show. And
was that intentional?
So no one knew me. So who's that guy? Who's that guy that looks shit?
But then you won.
Yeah, so it was a good experience, and but then seeing like Neil Hill do the guest spot, and he was just like absolutely shredded. I was like, wow, that's a whole new level. So that's what opened my eyes. Yeah,
you definitely appreciate that more in the flesh. I think certainly my experience with bodybuilding, that aesthetic type sport, is you have your perceptions before you see those people in the flesh, but actually to see how lean, conditioned, and big people are, and have an understanding of actually what goes into that. Because a lot of people think of it, still, I think of like a 12-week prep. Yeah. They don't think of the 10 years they've been training on top, the body fat levels they have to accumulate before, and then the body fat levels they diet down to after as well. a day and age of instant gratification and everything delivered to your door the next day, people don't think about the long haul.
Yeah, and I think back then, because we're talking 2002 when I competed, that's a long time ago. That's like 19 years ago. And back then, there wasn't really a lot of. I don't think even Facebook was invented then. It was Facebook 2008, I think.
Remember, but I think even when Facebook first came out, it was initially just university to university, wasn't it?
Yeah. So there wasn't really any Facebook then. Instagram, I don't think was a thing at all. So you only sort of saw people on like the internet, on websites. Yeah, on MySpace. Yeah. So there wasn't really any. You couldn't, like today. Obviously, people with stories and stuff like that. There's instant sort of like, what's this guy doing? There was none of that back then. You had to sort of rely on a lot of word of mouth. And I suppose what we're going to talk about today in terms of like coaching techniques and stuff like that, I think people did get away more with just giving people the same stuff and regurgitated stuff. But ironically, that still seems to go on quite a lot now. Even with the internet and everyone, this is my diet plan. No one's, I don't see people going, hold on, that's my diet plan as well. Where have you stolen my diet plan from? That seems to go on. And obviously you get sent a lot more of those types of emails than I do, I think, from like people who know you.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just like a mutual contact point, because I don't necessarily coach. We had this discussion that those type of people anymore. It's like a safe spot in between, because I think there's also a little bit of reservation and secrecy behind people's own plans, in that they don't want to share it with other people that might have similar, because they feel like they're giving away secrets as well. Whereas actually, if more people were more open and transparent, they'd be like, hang on a minute. What, you've got 20 grams of almonds, 100 grams of oats, and a double scoop of whey for breakfast as well? And a lot more people would get found out. But I think like a healthy level of skepticism as well is what I'd encourage for most people, because generally speaking, if you know a coach is working with vast numbers, it's just not possible to give someone a compassionate, bespoke level of coaching, because of how many there are, especially when they're charging what they charge as well.
So let's just put this into context, because that's a really interesting point, because you see there's a lot of people on social media who sort of brag about how many clients they have, like 60, 70 clients. Now, obviously everyone's way of working is very different, but how many clients would you take on as a maximum to work with in order to sort of help them, transform them, whatever?
For me personally, and the way I work, I know I work distinctly different to other people. The approach that I take is I work with a max of 20 people at a time. I do various other things as well, and I know that's distinctly different from a lot of other people. And what I like to think it as, there's almost like a sliding scale of coaching, I think, ranging from kind of compliance coaching to more compassionate coaching, in which because I spend quite a lot of time with my clients individually. I speak to them every week, multiple times over telephone, Zoom, etc. Not that it is about this, unfortunately, it makes the world go round, but for what I justify in terms of investment, they pay a certain price point for that, and they get a certain amount of service for that, and that helps me keep the numbers I work with quite small. Whereas on the compliance coaching end, I think that's more body transformations, which aren't really as bespoke. They're more kind of not always cookie cutter, but everyone's on kind of the same broad recommendations. And don't get me wrong, this is a sliding scale, so there are bits in between. But for what I do, I guess, I know people do prefer written check-ins, but I think because I spent so much of my career working with people in the flesh, I do like speaking to them where possible. I think it gives you avenues of conversation to explore. And I know that just doesn't work for other people from a time perspective. So I think it's a combination of how you want to work with people, but almost, obviously you need to make a living as well, which it feels really crass to bring up, like the monetary side of things, but that has to be a consideration. Whereas I know people that do group training and they can work with hundreds of people because of, the individual care that people get. And there's no right or wrong there. I think it's very, very personal.
Yeah, exactly. And group coaching is something that's become really popular recently. I mean, obviously we've got people like the Lean in 15, like the body coach, it's like 1,000 people, 10,000 people intake, that sort of thing. But obviously they have, it's not, you don't work with the body coach, you have a staff of people. And I think that's become more prevalent with coaches building up their business and then taking on other coaches to help manage that. And then you've also got the other end of the coach, the sort of group coaching scale, which is here's macros, off you go, and let's have a weekly Facebook clapping session to give everyone a pat on the back. I mean, I suppose my only issue with well, whatever type of coaching is that it's got to be right for the person. And I'm personally, when I'm talking to new clients, I always interview new clients to make sure what they want to do is actually what is the right thing for them to do. And presumably you have similar sort of process where you would make sure that what you're offering is the right for the client.
Yeah, I mean, there's like I always have a consultation of sorts. I have a coaching application, which gives me a broad understanding, which is just a written type form kind of thing. And then I'll have a conversation with someone, but that's like a non-obligatory call. They're not tied into working with me, because quite often as well, I found that I do refer on, not necessarily whether it's they need a community aspect and they need to work with numbers, but I think with some experience, you can also gauge a level of not just dedication, but the necessary help that people need. And quite often I'll hear perhaps a few red flags referring to some disordered eating, perhaps eating disorder, which I'll happily refer on, because ultimately I think that serves everyone longer term. They're happy with the service they get. I'm happy I haven't taken someone on that's not in my scope of practice, and they know they're going to get the appropriate level of support. But again, that's just how it's personal preference, and I don't think there's a right or wrong with this, but just ultimately the conclusion that I've come to, providing no one's misled, providing everyone has an understanding of the level of support they're expecting. So if it is more the compliance end, as in like a 12-week body transformation, they know it's not going to be hugely individual. They know it's going to be a written check-in perhaps once every other week. They know perhaps the face on the brand isn't going to be coaching them. That's fine, because they're investing a certain amount of money for that. They know exactly what they're getting. The coaches themselves know exactly what's expected from them. But on the other end, and if you are working, so for example, that's just me and my capacity in terms of working with people individually. I work with a max of 20 people at once. Is if I'm promising those people individual care, service and everything else, and then taking on 40 people, and that dilutes the level of service, they end up with a service they're unhappy with, well, then they have been misled. And I think that's ultimately what makes me feel comfortable with it, if you know exactly what you're getting.
Yeah, exactly. And some people can do better with, say, so I work with some people. I have sort of two levels, and I have one which is like the full 12-week transformation intensive, which I only take on a maximum of say 4 or 5 people at once over 12 weeks. But then I have another program which is less intense, with like a monthly meeting, and that's up to 20 people at once. But those are my limits. But obviously everyone's aware of how much contact they have, what they have to do. And I think there's that a couple of books talk about this, where you have a do it yourself, done with you, and then done for you. So the done for you is obviously the full one-to-one weekly meetings. The do it yourself is, here's some macros, here's some diet templates, here's some workouts, and then off you go. And there's maybe an accountability group meeting or something like that. And I think if people are clear what they're paying for and what they're getting, but quite often what I suppose you get, and what I get sort of filtered down, is that people are promised something, and then it's the lesser version of that, which again is something we're going to talk about in a second, isn't it, with misleading stuff.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. As you said, there's no distinct right or wrong there, providing everyone knows what they're getting, and they feel their investment is worthy of that. They're getting that level of and that value in return, because especially in our industries, well, bad word of mouth spreads like wildfire. And just as a personal thing, I'd be devastated to hear that one of my clients hadn't received the level of service they were expecting. So again, that's based on my coaching experiences and complaints that other people have come to me. I make a concerted effort to keep in contact and chase people up as well, which I know a lot of others don't get. It might be, they pay up, I don't know, a couple of £100 for a 12-week plan, and they speak to a coach once a month, and all they get is just, as you said, just macros and a generic plan, and they have to stick with that throughout the 12 weeks. There's no educative chats, there's no accountability check-ins, there's no habit tracking, there's no other tasks in between. It's just, there's your nutrition plan, there's your workout, crack on, see you in 12 weeks, which a lot of people do.
Yeah. And I suppose from a client perspective, there's obviously onus on the coach to make sure that they're communicating correctly what they're offering and what the person can expect. But also from the client side, because I don't know about you, but I have had people in the past say, oh yes, I want all this, and they're only expecting to pay like £40. And they think, well, how are you expecting all that for that? It's like when you see someone advertising a new iPhone 13 for £20 unused, and it's, oh, that's a bargain. And go on.
No, I was just going to say that's the ultimate oxymoron, isn't it? I want the best and cheap. What's the best, cheapest deal I can get? Well, it's either kind of, you want one or the other, I think, especially when it comes to services. Yeah. And I compared this recently, actually. I had a chat with someone, like headphones. If you get a good pair of headphones, unfortunately, they're quite an investment, but they'll last you forever and you'll be very happy with them. But you buy a cheap alternative to those, we'll expect to replace them a couple of times. Yeah, expect not to be happy.
Yeah, and I think people have to have that level of understanding, is that if they're going to work with someone who is renowned for getting results for people, the price they're going to pay is not going to be under £100 for a certain service. Which sort of brings us nicely into our sort of main topic today, which is wine. So
wine, not quite wine, but along the lines of wine.
So why don't you talk? Because I know you sent out an email. We had obviously a chat last week, and then you sent out your email about wine. So why are we talking about wine on a fitness YouTube podcast thing?
Well, I heard it through the grapevine, you see, and I think,
oh yes,
I knew you'd appreciate that. And the thing is about modern day coaches, I think, especially if you're newer into the industry, you have great expectations.
Have you got a list of these?
No, that's it. That's it. Done.
That's
but you can sometimes make poor decisions.
Oh,
that's it. I'm done. And it was something that, I don't follow this individual on Instagram. I'm quite like, I do filter my feed, and that's not like a rudeness thing. It's just, I follow friends and people I interact with or people I gain value from. Like, that's just one of my social media rules is I don't want to overexpose myself to too much. I don't watch a bunch of stories because it can end up a huge time-wasting rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And that's just some of my social media etiquette. Anyway, some individual was posting me this, and in a gist, the summary of it was, the comparison was coaching services to a wine study, which is based, obviously, wine is a product. And the ethos and premise around this was that as long as people were told that it was the highest level or the best wine possible, they were more than happy to pay the premium for it. So there's many holes in this. Well, for a start, it's wine. These aren't people. People are hugely complex. And also the way this was presented, this information, it was almost like a brag that I can offer a certain level of service, whether the price point is warranted or not, providing I dupe people into that, providing I can coerce them into believing that it's better. It doesn't actually matter whether it's better. I can give them a lower level service, providing I can trick them into it. And that was kind of the message behind it, which someone that cares from a coaching perspective, but also like cares about the industry standards on a whole, it does bother me, that kind of thing, because other people get a perspective of that. They tar all coaches with the same brush. And also, I don't want other people coming in the industry to think, and this is perhaps where it's a counterpoint to what we're encouraged as coaches to do, and what we'd want out of our clients is outcome focused. So we have brand new coaches coming in this industry. They idolize certain role models and they think about money before they think about people. Well, what we're trying to discourage of our clients is thinking about the outcome and the six pack and the everything else, because it's the processes and the steps along the way. So it's, it's your NEAT, it's your energy intake, it's the effectiveness of your workouts, all of those things that are important. But in the coaching mentorship space at the moment, all that's being discounted, and it's just how much money can I make? How much can I squirrel away, and how much can I con people out of, for want of a better word, which just doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, it's certainly moved that way, but I think and maybe we just see it because we're in the fitness industry, but from chatting to other people in other industries, that is the thing that is being pushed the most at the moment is how much money can you make rather than how much service can you deliver, and then the money comes from that.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's something that's quite interesting, and like obviously the study that you're talking about, and that we I'm just going to turn my my thing's beeping at me, sorry about that. So the study we're talking about, with which you touched on, was and actually that study I know has been done previously, because I've read books where it's been referred to, which was before the year of this study. And what they had people who they gave free wine to, which was
that's what this study.
Yeah,
there was only women in this study as well, so not representative
so
of all.
Free wine. Who's not going to go for that? Yeah, so I'm going to have some free wine, and they basically labelled it like, I don't know, Peckham wine, or the Chanton and Vise or whatever.
What are you saying about Peckham? Peckham might have a vineyard. You don't
Peckham's
know.
awesome. Maybe not try the wine from there. Their water is off the scale, mate. It's awesome. But the idea is that they saw the bottle. They said this one was like £5. This was a £75, and then it's like, well, okay, so which one is the best? And they tasted them, and then they said the more expensive one was the best. But the problem is that those people have not bought that wine, have they? They've just been given it for free, and the only sort of point of reference they've got is, what does it taste like? So they taste it, but because they're being told it's more expensive, rather than, oh, here's my money, now I will taste it. And that's a lot different. And that's where this guy is talking about, if you price the coaching high, you're going to get more people.
Yeah.
And it's better, because they might do that. But if you'd paid 75 quid for a bottle of wine, and you paid £5 for a bottle of wine, and then you taste it and it's only a £50 bottle of wine taste, well, then the £75 one has completely not hit the mark in terms of what you expected. But the £5 one has really smashed your expectations in terms of what you're expecting. And I think the message they're sending is the wrong message there. It's not price it as high as you can in order to get as much money as you can. It's ideally we want to price our wine at £40, so that when we taste it and we think, well, that's a £50 bottle of wine, that's awesome and it's great value, and I would definitely recommend it to others. Whereas if you got the £75 bottle of wine and you taste it, oh, that's not £75, I would not recommend that to others. So you might hook in a few people. If you extrapolate that to coaching, you might hook in a few people to spend that sort of money, but would they recommend you? Would they testimonial you to other people? And I think the thing here, I think we talked about this, off the record, off the air a little bit, was that if you look at those sorts of people, there's only 1 or 2 testimonials on their sites, or there's lots of testimonials which are dubious pictures of people you think that maybe didn't make those testimonials.
Yeah, I think the bit that doesn't sit comfortably with me about just something that is so person and client centered is the way it dehumanizes everyone. And even the I'm a big fan of language, and I think it can be really significant in how people frame things. So referring to people as leads, or referring to certain scripts when you're calling people, it just takes the organic element of actual human connection out of there. So as a bystander, if you are looking at these mentors in the fitness space and they're showing you Rolexes, they're showing you the new cars, it's just, why isn't it privilege enough just to do something that you love for a job and you get to live on? And if you're a great coach, you'll make a great living. And that's the byproduct of it, not how much can we con people out of, because that's essentially what the message is. Because a lot of those wine studies, because I think there are quite a few now, which is the obvious comparison that it's wine, it's a product, it's free. There's small numbers in these, they're not randomized controlled studies. Also, prior knowledge of the prior knowledge that these people have hasn't been assessed. So they're quite often naive people. So again, the undertone of providing people aren't knowledgeable, they have no education around this, they don't know what to expect. Let's try and con them out of as much possible, which doesn't do any of us any good from a coaching perspective, because that individual coming into our industry, their first experience of coaching could be a terrible one that they've paid a lot of money for. And then that is then their perception of coaching as a whole for the rest of their days, unless they might stumble across someone by accident, that does offer them the service that they pay for.
Yeah, and also there's from the obviously the coaches who coach coaches perspective, I've spoken to a lot of people recently who have told me about experience they've had where they've been duped into these high ticket selling coaches for coaches, and the advice they're giving them is just so basic, and like join a Facebook group and try and get so join someone else's Facebook group and then message all the people to try and get leads from there. That was like the high ticket advice.
Yeah.
And this and I'm not sure about you, but I don't like the term high ticket.
No, again, it dehumanizes people. It puts a monetary value on them, not I want a certain level of commitment out of my clients, and they see a certain amount of value in me that they're happy to invest in.
And the other side of that is that from the KPI program that I've done, and a lot of people on that program are very successful millionaire type business people. They are the high ticket people. They're not stupid, and they make their investments very, very sensibly. And when they are coming to invest in someone, they research everything they're doing.
Oh, recap, because I was so distracted by you being paused.
Sorry about that. We cut out for a second there. So as I was just saying with Dan, is that on the business accelerator I went to a few years ago, a lot of the people on there are very successful business people who've earned a lot of money, who are earning huge amounts of money from their businesses. Those are the high ticket people, if you want to call them that, who do pay £6,000-7,000 for things like transformations and stuff like that. And they are not stupid. They haven't built that type of business from making stupid investments and not researching people. And they're not just going to be conned by someone posting Instagram quotes about putting your shoes on before you go for a walk. Everybody, because I've worked with a few people from that program, and they've all got incredible results, obviously, because it's me. But they've all said to me before they came to work with me, I watched your YouTube videos, I listened to your podcast, I looked at your stuff on Instagram, I saw that the message you were putting out was aligned with what I was doing. And I didn't know any of that. They just emailed me or Facebook messaged me and said, "Oh, can we have a chat about working together?" And when I was talking to them, they said, "Oh, I've done this, and it's like they've done a proper deep dive on me before they've even reached out. And I think that's what this sort of high ticket mentality is like. Yeah, you just got to get them on a call and hard sell them until they buy. They're so used to that sort of stuff.
It's probably a turn off.
Yeah, I get those sorts of calls at the gym, people trying to sell me all this sort of stuff, and I was like, just go away. I get it all the time. And I think that obviously the high ticket stuff does work because a lot of people are doing it. But it's something I don't like, that term high ticket person. It implies that what you're selling is not worth the money, because if you're selling something that's worth the money, it's not high ticket, it's just good value.
Yeah, it is. And I'm always cautious to call it an investment as well, because if you truly value it, it is an investment. It's not a cost. And I think that's a specific mindset that people get in as well. Like, how much does it cost? Well, if you see it as a cost, cost is aligned with like taking away from, like a substitute, a subtraction. What am I going to lose and sacrifice elsewhere? Whereas if it's an investment, it's enhancing, you're adding to life.
Yeah, what you're going to gain from doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, maybe my, and like you, I have reduced a lot of the stuff I see on social media. I've unfollowed a lot of people. I've taken a lot of people off my Facebook feed, only for the fact that I don't want to be distracted too much when I'm having my 10 minutes on social media. But I don't know if you see different things, but some of the stuff I have seen is all geared towards, there's none of that. There's none of that pushing the value of services.
Yeah.
And with notable exceptions, and people who are on my social media feed, that they'll know who they are. So I'm not gonna, this isn't aimed at you or whatever, but there are a lot of those sort of, how much can you sell, how much can you push, how much can you upsell, all this stuff. And it's very high pressure stuff, and it just doesn't sit well with me when I see all that sort of stuff.
No, I mean, for me personally, and I've been coaching for 16 years, being the best bloody coach possible and caring about the people you work with as much as they care about their results as well is the best thing you can do for your business. Like, the rest of it will come eventually, but just being the best coach possible. And you're exactly right. I don't see much of that messaging. I don't see creating a business that aligns with your values, that would attract the sort of people that align with your values, that you would enjoy working with. Because everyone I work with now, like, there's no one I feel is to work with is a chore, because I like to think I represent myself. I'm very much myself on social media. You'll probably find this. Some people just, they don't engage in anything you ever put out there. I've had this before. People will approach me and say, I followed you for ages, but then you'll add them as an Instagram handle. They've never liked anything. They've never sent you a comment on anything. They're just quiet observers, because that is what people are doing. Is you're not directly marketing, but people are pretty perceptive in terms of assessing bullshit out there. They can gauge you as a person and what you believe in and what they're going to get in terms of service as well.
Yeah, and that is a fair comment about, because like, again, a lot of the people who I eventually end up working with, although they are on my Facebook feed, a lot of them haven't liked or commented or anything else. They've just observed. And that is pretty true. And I think that's what maybe some people get, because they see like people with like 10,000 likes on a post or whatever. And some of those posts as well, it's like, it's so, like, the posts mean nothing. Like I said before, it's you can't walk to the shops unless you put your shoes on. It's like, there's like 10,000 likes, and that's so deep and insightful and meaningful.
Rocket science.
Like,
why didn't I think of that?
Where did you come up with that? It's like, wow, there's just no value in that post at all. And I think a lot of people, a lot of like new coaches, get sort of bogged down in that that's the sort of stuff I must have to do but it's just empty likes. You've seen that so many times with people who've got massive internet followings. They put a product out there and they just can't sell it because it's just robotic, empty likes.
Yeah, it's social currency. There is some value in that, unfortunately. And I the deepest parts of me want to reject that and think it doesn't matter. It does matter, I think, in terms of opportunities and doorways it opens sometimes. I've had quite a few things where I've had a foot in the door somewhere. I was put forward for a TV, like a morning show at one point, and the producer got back to me and he said, basically, because I haven't got more than 10,000 followers, it wasn't something they'd be interested in. So it was nothing to do with my experience, nothing to do with my credentials. I didn't have enough followers, which is kind of mind-boggling, but I do kind of get as well from a business perspective. So I'm not sure I like that side of things, but just another part of my social media etiquette is I turn likes off.
Oh, do you?
I turn them off of my own posts. And when you do that, it makes sure, I don't know whether it's a separate setting, but for whatever reason, I can't see anyone else's likes either.
Might be general sense. That is a good idea, to be fair.
It serves nothing else other than to fluff my ego and fuel comparison. Because I think no matter how aware you are of comparison, if you've written something which fundamentally represents your message out there in the space, you're very quite proud of it, and then you see an influencer with their bum cheeks out that gets a million, like you will naturally compare to that. So it serves nothing for me in terms of comparison, which is just the poison chalice. And then in terms of likes that I get to, I mean, I can still view insights, but I'm more interested in reach that post gets, like how many eyeballs get to see that, what comments come out of it, and what conversations come out of my DMs. I'm not really interested in likes.
So it's interesting. A few of my, because I do like mini book posts, which is all like quick swipe files on stuff like macros and stuff like that. And I generally find that there's more people that save the post than actually like it. And I'm like, you saved my post but didn't like it. How dare you?
But I don't think you can see who saves it now. You can just get a number.
You just get a number, but you can't. You can't see who's done it, and you can't see how many shares it's had anymore because of EU regulations. But you can see obviously who you can see how many liked it, and you can see who liked it, but you can't see who saved it, which actually would be a better metric, because if you knew someone saved a thing on macros, you're like, well, maybe that's a discussion I can have with them about.
And they find that sort of value. Yeah. Like you've hit a spot there.
But I think the reason why that is because that takes away Facebook ads then.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you know who's saved your product or saved your post, and then you go and contact them direct, there's no money been spent there for Facebook ads.
I hadn't thought of that, but that does make sense. Yeah.
So people who have liked or interacted, you can retarget with Facebook ads. And I think that's why you can't do that. And also why you can't see who shared it, because again, that would be something you could then recontact that person and say about.
That makes sense, I guess, from a business perspective. But I mean, that's just my personal social media etiquette as well. I try not to now, and again, this is just more of a self-awareness thing for me. I don't reshare things that people have shared and tagged me in. Again, like for me personally, I can only comment on me personally. That serves nothing to me other than to try and brag to others about who shared my work. This is just me personally, not comment on anyone else. And again, fluff my own ego. And I think if you're putting stuff out constantly, I never want my message to be skewed by others, which is another reason why I don't watch everyone's stories, because I don't really want to be talking about what everyone else is talking about. I want to be talking about what my clients are talking to me about, or what I think is quite relevant and helpful for people. Yeah. So, I mean, that again, that's just a few things that I do.
There's some good tips in there, to be fair, because social media can be both a great thing where you can learn a lot really fast, but also it can drag you down in terms of looking at how many people who have potentially got a better life than you, at least on Instagram, and you aspiring to be that way. But it can lead to a lot of I suppose actions which aren't what you should be doing. And I suppose that's then where the sort of the get rich quick or the get shredded quick, because that's the fitness equivalent, isn't it? Coaches come in, because it's like, do you want this thing fast like this person has got, or like I've got? Then sign up for this 10k or 10x or whatever result. And I think that's something that is something I don't like about social media. I do love it, the fact that the stuff I post can help people I've never met and can help them transform their lives, and I'll never know about that because they've just taken the advice.
I think that's a great way of positively framing it, I think. And I think if a lot more people had that view of it, they'd be happier with what they put out, because I think in years to come, and don't get me wrong, it has the capacity to do so much good, social media. And like you and I, we met through social media. I've met some great people through social media that I've then come to meet in person as well. But I think it's going to kind of be like tobacco years to come. Like you think back to tobacco in the 40s, it was marketed as like the cool hip thing to do. Kind of had a bit of a bad idea about it, that that might be not a great thing to do for my health. But now we're all like passively scrolling. I noticed myself doing it in the supermarket not so long ago. There's one person in front of me. What am I doing? Scrolling social media.
Yeah, and you see that an awful lot. And I have to stop myself doing that. Where say like I'll walk somewhere to meet someone, and like stood there for 10 seconds, and then immediately it's like, and I have to think, what am I doing? And just stop. Take in the air, take in the people. And it's great. I don't know if you've ever done this. I don't know how many people watching this will actually do this. If you stand when you get to a bus stop, or you get to like I said, an aisle in a supermarket or whatever, but I don't go to supermarkets because I get it delivered, because I just cannot stand supermarkets. But if you're ever in that situation, you've got to wait. If you put your hands in your pockets, then just look around and just people watch, and there's everybody like that on their phone.
Judge everyone else instead of trying to judge your life against strangers around. And that's the crazy thing about that as well. We all know that's a show reel, but still on a subconscious level, because it's so deeply ingrained in your brain, you're like, oh, they're seemingly happy. They're making lots of money. They're on extravagant holidays all the time. But what you don't see are the deeply lonely people that their only outlet personally is social media. They haven't got a group of friends, and you see it in years after they were influencers, all these stories that come about, they were some deepest, darkest moments of their lives. They felt like they had to project a certain self to the rest of the world. So it's mad that we all know that and we still believe it.
Yeah, and we still do it. It's like smoking, isn't it? You know you shouldn't do it. It's bad for your health, but just can't. It is an addiction, isn't it?
I think years to come, and actually I'm reading a book now called It is called no, it's not called addiction. Unresistible. Unresistible or irresistible?
Irresistible.
Irresistible. Irresistible. It's called Irresistible, but it's about addiction to technology.
Oh, really? I read that one.
Yeah, there's a lot more research coming out in terms of that, and it's interesting that all of the developers of these products, they don't let their children use them.
Yeah, now I saw a documentary, and I'm not sure how. There's obviously going to be a bit of bias in any documentary, but they were talking about the people who were responsible for setting up things like Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that, and they were talking about the algorithms as to how they program it to get people, so that, you know, like when you ping or you got a like, so you open up your thing to see what likes you've got, and then you're straight down the rabbit hole into all the other stuff.
Dopamine spike in the brain.
Yeah.
A little bit of external validation, a pat on the back.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that documentary. It was
is that the one? It was primarily on Facebook, right?
I think so. Yeah, about a year ago. That was really interesting. But also, like you're saying, they're saying they don't allow their kids to have it, and this, that, the other. And I think after watching that, I actually turned off all notifications on my phone for like WhatsApp, text messages, Facebook, Instagram. So if I want to go into Instagram, I'll go in and check my likes or whatever. I won't. Oh, now I'll stop exactly what I'm doing and then go into doing that, because
I do the same. No, there's no notifications on mine.
Just kills productivity. You know, if you sat there writing emails or doing whatever, enhancing your business, giving people value, ding ding, you're like, oh, and then you're straight down that rabbit hole for half an hour. It's like, well, what have I done? I've done nothing in that half hour apart from look at other people's lives.
Yeah, and if I'm going to paraphrase now because I can't remember the specific definition for it, but if you look at definitions of addiction or versions of, it's on some level debilitating effects on your personal life, that it gets in the way, whether it's work, personal relationships, etc. And then you go out to a restaurant, or if you're a fly on the wall in most couples' living rooms of an evening, both just passively scrolling. Like if that's not getting in the way of modern life. Or I found this pre-pandemic, we managed to get to Disneyland with my little girl at the time, just before everything locked down. And I made a point, and whenever we go away, is my phone just goes in the safe. Like I don't need that. I'm on holiday, like, you know. And it was incredible the amount of people that were chasing evidence of presence to put on their social media rather than just being present. Like we watched the parade, and this amazing parade, incredible performers. Like my daughter loved it. Our my daughter and your son are the same age, so absolutely loved it. And there were just people that were just enjoying it through their phone.
That's crazy, isn't it? A concert.
It's in front of you. Just enjoy it. Like it's great that people want memories of that, but I suspect that it's not necessarily memories that people are chasing. It's more, I need evidence of this to portray a certain version of myself.
Yeah, it's. I think when me and Jacob and Sam go anywhere, I think I have about 3 clips I do of what we're doing, and then it's like 10-second clips, and then because I don't know if you do this, but I save all the stuff I do with Jacob into. I've got a Dropbox file, and basically it's Jacob's entire life. So when he's 18, I can embarrass the fuck out of him.
That is a great idea.
It's just all his baby. So when he was conceived all the way up. So I've got 5 years worth of like video clips and clips with his gran and granddad and everything else, and all that stuff's there. So we can actually make that into this is your life.
That's a much better idea. I saw something when Mila was born, which I thought was a great idea. Sending them an email of pictures with a few words, like setting them up an email account, and then at 18 you give them the like just a Hotmail or Google or whatever, and then give them the password with all your emails and photos you've sent them. But you do just get out of the habit of doing them. That sounds like a great idea, though. I might steal that from you.
So whenever I go anywhere with Jacob, we do like a 10-second video of what we're doing, and you know, this, that, the other, and him talking. Now obviously he talks a lot. And I just basically, as soon as I've done that, go into my Dropbox on my phone and just upload it. And then the phone goes away, and that's it. Because then we've got the memory then. And that's what we've gone there for. Yeah. And also, I don't know if there's a really good app called Touch Note. And Touch Note, you can send postcards to people using your there's other apps that do this, but if you go into TouchNote, and I've got an account with them, it's like £5 a month for however many things. And so whenever I go anywhere, so yeah, sorry, cut out then for again. So the TouchNote app, you basically just take a photo and then you can upload it to the app and then send it. So I send, every time we go to like feed the ducks or go to Alton Towers or whatever else, I send a snap of that to his granddad and grandma and to his other grandfa. And then that's so and what's cool about it is you can use little kiddie writing on it. So it's like in a child's writing, it says, "Dear Granddad and Grandma, today we went to Alton Towers. It was fun. Love, Jacob." And you can put a stamp on it, which is a stamp with him on it. So they get a really personalized postcard. It's obviously all done automated, and they get sent.
Yeah, that's really nice though.
They put them all.
I like that. That's physical as well, because older generations are not necessarily going to have access to.
They've got albums, so they put them on.
Yeah, excellent.
And my parents have got like an album as well. So it's like, how as kids they would keep photos of us in an album.
Yeah,
they can actually keep photos and postcards and memories in the album.
That's really nice. Yeah, I'll look into that, I think.
And that's again how social media can be good. You take a photo and you send a physical thing to someone to share the memory, and they love it. They get one a month normally, or if we do lots, so like one every 2 weeks. But yeah, they really love it.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's the thing. Other thing as well, isn't it? I think when it comes to social media, is how much of your life you share on social media. Because if you share everything with the world, what's special and left for you? So I know I don't not put my kids on social media, but I don't use them as like a point to put things on. You know how some people do? I know it sounds awful to suggest, but I think some people do, unfortunately. They use their kids almost like an accessory.
Yeah, there is some of that. And that's, again, why because in lockdown, I was sharing a lot of stuff with me because there was nothing else to do. Like, here's me and Jacob playing in the garden. And I was just like, because you couldn't see anyone, you couldn't talk to anybody. So I was sharing a lot of stuff with me and Jacob. And I thought, actually, and I saw other people doing it. I thought, I wonder if that's a bit too much, And so I reined it back in, and now I only share like very, very small memories of what we're doing together. Yeah. Like at Saturday class, we go to the gym to do that sort of stuff. But it's there is a bit of that. There's like I don't know, you're losing it as an accessory, and I don't want to. Even though I'm not doing that, I don't want it to be seen as doing that. Whereas I shouldn't care about what the people think, but it matters to me that I'm just sharing memories of Jacob because it's nice and it's fun and it's there's a lot of one-upsmanship. It's there's always something. You meditate for 5 minutes a day. Well, sorry, Dan, I think we cut out again for a second there. You're on about using the kids as sort of like an accessory.
Yeah, I was mid ramblings of a madman. Like the proverbial flex, everything on kind of social media has become a bit of a flex. It's, look at what a wonderful parent I am. If you meditate for 5, I meditate for 6 hours, you read 2 books a month, I read 6. There's a lot of one-upsmanship. It's not just, a lot of people have lost the art of just being and being present, I think.
What about, have you took a photo of yourself giving any money to a tramp yet?
Oh man, that kills me. That does. That's so awful.
Unless you've done
that's
that,
so awful on so many levels, isn't it? I did notice, not that I spend a great deal of time on there. I popped on LinkedIn the other day, and I like, this guy got a hammering because he'd done exactly that, and it was this poor homeless guy. The guy in the background obviously couldn't really say no to a photo, didn't look too happy about the photo. And there was this guy grinning, saying how he'd spoken to this other guy for hours and hours, heard all about his story, how happy this guy was that he stopped to speak to him. He was just a miserable bloke in the background thinking...
Sorry, Dan, we run out of time, but that was a great rant. So, and I think the internet's not our friend today. Thanks for the conversation. And I think we'll have to revisit it at another point.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, mate. I'll speak to you later.
Cheers. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.